Mysterious disappearance cases that shocked the world and new details discovered. The disappearance of Kim Sochion, a South Korean mystery. A man vanishes into thin air. No body, no clues, just a silent valley and a trail of lies. Part 1. A quiet life disrupted. On May 1, 2015, in the quiet South Korean city of Yongin, 47-year-old Kim Sochion left his home at exactly 2:52 p.m. His destination seemed harmless. He was planning to meet a friend for a short trip, but what should have been a relaxing few days ended in a nightmare that continues to haunt investigators and Kim's family to this day. He never came back. The details of Kim's disappearance are tangled in contradictions, shifting stories, and questionable motives. Over the course of the next 8 years, police investigations, surveillance footage, financial records, and personal testimonies would paint a haunting picture, one that raises more questions than it answers. Part 2. The last known movements. According to records and eyewitness reports, Kim traveled to meet his friend, known only by the surname Lee, in Seoul. On May 2, the two men drove together across the capital, eventually making their way to Donghae in Gangwon Province, where they stayed the night at a friend's house. The next day, they attempted to go scuba diving, but due to bad weather, the dive club was closed. Instead, they had coffee near the dive site for about 30 minutes. Then, Kim vanished. Lee's first account to police stated that Kim suddenly asked to be dropped off after receiving a call from a female friend. Lee claimed he let Kim out of the car and returned home alone. However, surveillance footage and later investigations contradicted this statement. Video showed Kim walking toward the driver's seat, suggesting he intended to drive, contradicting Lee's claim that he was dropped off. Part 3. Conflicting testimonies. When confronted with the footage, Lee changed his story, admitting he had lied out of fear of being considered a suspect. He now claimed that after visiting the dive site, they drove into a remote valley area to camp. There, they drank 3 bottles of soju and fell asleep in a tent. Around 3 a.m., Lee said he woke up and tried to convince Kim to return to the city, but Kim refused. Lee then left alone. This new version raised multiple red flags. For one, Kim had not packed for a camping trip. He wore casual sportswear and brought no gear. All the camping equipment, Lee said, was borrowed from a friend that morning. This suggested the camping trip was premeditated by Lee, not mutually planned. Part 4. Inconsistencies and impossible logistics. Lee claimed the campsite was located on the 4th bridge in the valley. Later, he changed it to the 9th bridge, saying it was too dark to be sure. Police went to the area and discovered the terrain was completely unsuitable for camping. It was raining heavily that night, and there was no space to pitch a tent safely on the bridge. Moreover, Kim's phone lost signal after they entered the valley, consistent with a signal dead zone. However, Lee's car was later seen exiting the valley, with only Lee inside. Kim had seemingly vanished during the night. Part 5. The financial motive. As investigators dug deeper, they uncovered serious financial entanglements between Kim and Lee. Kim had transferred over 500 million won, about $450,000, to Lee in late 2014 and early 2015. Officially, these were business investments, but close friends of Kim stated that he was trying to retrieve money Lee owed him. Lee claimed the money had been given to his wife to repay a past loan, but that explanation fell apart under scrutiny. Kim had no reason to owe such a large amount. Records showed Kim had mortgaged his property to raise the funds, intending to bid for a hospital cafeteria project with Lee. When they lost the bid, Kim reportedly demanded his money back. Part 6. The web of lies. Lee was no ordinary individual. He claimed to be a North Korean defector with ties to intelligence agencies. He boasted of a vast fortune, saying his wife owned 15 dessert shops and had a 10 billion won bank account. None of this was verifiable. People close to Lee described him as a compulsive liar who frequently exaggerated his status and wealth. Kim had been drawn in by Lee's promises of success, prestige, and lucrative contracts. When the business deals failed, Kim began demanding repayment. Investigators believed Lee had run out of options. Part 7. The Arrest and Aftermath. Lee was arrested on May 21, 2015, under suspicion of fraud and obstruction of justice. However, in the absence of a body or direct evidence, police could not charge him with murder. The investigation slowed down, and Lee was released after serving a reduced sentence for the fraud-related charges. To this day, Kim So-kyan has never been found. His body, phone, and belongings remain missing. Investigators suspect foul play but cannot prove it beyond a reasonable doubt. The valley where he vanished has been searched extensively, yet the silence remains. Conclusion. A vanishing in plain sight. The case of Kim So-kyan highlights the perfect storm of deception, misplaced trust, and legal limitations. Despite a mountain of circumstantial evidence, Lee walks free, and Kim's family continues to live in limbo. What happened in that valley? Was it a cold-blooded murder masked as a camping trip? Or did Kim truly walk away from his life, leaving behind his children, debts, and unresolved business? Until more evidence is found, the case remains one of South Korea's most chilling modern mysteries. Story number 2, The Killer Clown. John Wayne Gacy, America's serial nightmare. John Wayne Gacy was the embodiment of contradiction. A successful contractor, community volunteer, and friendly neighbor, he was known in his Chicago suburb for dressing up as Pogo the Clown to entertain children at hospitals and local events. No one could have imagined that beneath the makeup lurked one of the most prolific serial killers the United States had ever seen. Born in 1942, Gacy had a turbulent childhood marked by physical abuse from his alcoholic father. Despite personal struggles, he built a facade of stability, married twice, started a business, and became active in local politics. He was even photographed with the First Lady at one point. But behind the scenes, he was battling dark impulses that would soon turn into deadly action. From 1972 to 1978, young men and boys began disappearing around the Chicago area. Most were last seen accepting work or rides from Gacy. Many were runaways or estranged from their families, which helped Gacy avoid early suspicion. He lured them with promises of construction jobs or parties, then drugged, raped, and strangled them. Neighbors occasionally complained of strange odors from Gacy's house, but he always had excuses: plumbing problems, a dead rodent, humidity. It wasn't until the disappearance of 15-year-old Robert Piest in December 1978 that police finally closed in. Gacy had been seen with Piest shortly before the teen vanished. Police obtained a search warrant and began investigating his home. What they found shocked even seasoned detectives. Beneath the floorboards of Gacy's suburban home was a makeshift tomb, the decomposed bodies of 29 boys and young men. 4 additional victims were later found in nearby rivers. In total, Gacy had murdered 33 people. He admitted to sexually assaulting many of them and strangling them with a tourniquet after handcuffing them, sometimes while dressed as his clown persona. Gacy's 1980 trial became a media circus. His defense team claimed he was insane, presenting evidence of childhood trauma, mood disorders, and alter egos, including Bad Jack, who committed the murders. The prosecution, however, emphasized the calculated nature of the killings and Gacy's efforts to hide the bodies. The jury deliberated for just 2 hours before convicting him on all counts. He was sentenced to death. Gacy spent 14 years on death row before being executed by lethal injection in 1994. Even in prison, he was unapologetic, famously saying, "I should never have been convicted of anything more serious than running a cemetery without a license." His case has inspired countless books, documentaries, and films. The image of a smiling clown hiding monstrous cruelty continues to haunt public imagination. John Wayne Gacy's story is a terrifying reminder that evil can wear the most unsuspecting masks. His ability to blend into society while committing unspeakable acts of violence shocked a nation and forced a re-evaluation of how we perceive trust, appearances, and evil. As one detective on the case put it, he was a man with two faces, and one of them belonged in hell. Story number 3, The Death of Elisa Lam at the Cecil Hotel, America's Modern Urban Legend. On January 26, 2013, 21-year-old Elisa Lam, a Canadian student at the University of British Columbia, checked into the notorious Cecil Hotel in downtown Los Angeles. She was traveling alone, taking a break from studies to explore the West Coast. Her trip was well documented via social media, Tumblr posts, and phone calls with her family. Elisa had a history of bipolar disorder and depression but had managed her condition with medication. Her parents were concerned but supportive of her travels, checking in with her daily. On January 31st, Elisa stopped responding to calls and messages. Alarmed, her parents contacted the LAPD. A missing persons investigation began immediately. Surveillance footage from the hotel elevator, dated February 1st, stunned the world. Elisa is seen stepping into the elevator, pressing multiple buttons, and appearing confused. She peeks out of the door several times, gestures strangely, and hides in the corner. At one point, she steps outside, gestures as if talking to someone unseen, and then vanishes from the frame. The elevator door does not close throughout the video. The footage went viral. Theories exploded online, ranging from mental breakdowns to ghost sightings and supernatural involvement. For weeks, there was no sign of Elisa Lam. On February 19th, hotel guests began complaining of low water pressure, black water, and a strange taste. Maintenance staff investigated and discovered Elisa's naked body floating inside one of the rooftop water tanks. She had been missing for 3 weeks. How did she get there? The water tanks were heavy, required a ladder to access, and had lids that were difficult to close. The rooftop was restricted, alarmed, and secure. There were no signs of foul play, sexual assault, or drug use. Her toxicology report revealed only prescription drugs in her system, consistent with her bipolar treatment. Despite the coroner ruling her death as accidental drowning with bipolar disorder as a contributing factor, countless questions remained. How did Elisa access the rooftop without triggering alarms? Why was the elevator behaving erratically? Was she alone or being followed? Why remove her clothes? Some believed she was suffering a psychotic episode. Others were convinced she was targeted by someone, perhaps a hotel employee or even a ghost. The Cecil Hotel, after all, had a dark past. Serial killers like Richard Ramirez and Jack Unterweger had stayed there. Numerous suicides and deaths had occurred on its premises. Elisa's case became a global phenomenon, inspiring Reddit threads, YouTube documentaries, and Netflix's Crime Scene, The Vanishing at the Cecil Hotel. Her final moments were endlessly analyzed, and her tragic story fueled debates on mental health, urban legends, and safety in public accommodation. The death of Elisa Lam remains one of the most haunting modern mysteries. Whether it was a tragic accident or something more sinister, it exposed the eerie underbelly of a city, a building, and a society fascinated with death. To this day, people still debate the footage, the tank, and the truth. What really happened at the Cecil Hotel? Was Elisa alone, or was someone, or something, there with her? Story number 4, The Dyatlov Pass Incident, Russia's Enduring Mountain Mystery. In late January 1959, a group of 10 Soviet students and graduates from the Ural Polytechnical Institute set out on a ski hiking expedition into the Ural Mountains. The leader, 23-year-old Igor Dyatlov, was a respected and meticulous engineering student. The team included 8 men and 2 women, all skilled hikers and mountaineers, aiming to earn a Grade 3 certification, the highest possible at the time. Their goal, to reach Otorden, a mountain whose name in the local Mansi language ominously means, "Don't go there." But one of them, Yuri, turned back early due to illness, a decision that would save his life. The remaining 9 pressed forward, completely unaware they were walking into one of history's most confounding tragedies. On February 1, 1959, the group pitched their tent on the eastern slope of Kholat Syakhl, or Mountain of the Dead. For unknown reasons, they camped in an exposed area rather than the forested valley below, which would have provided shelter from the wind. They were never seen alive again. When the group failed to return, a search party was launched on February 20th. Within days, rescuers found the tent, half collapsed and strangely cut open from the inside. Personal belongings, shoes, and jackets were left behind. Footprints led away from the tent into the woods, in socks or barefoot, vanishing after about 500 meters. 2 bodies were found under a cedar tree nearly a mile from the tent, dressed only in underwear. Their hands were burned, and branches above were broken. They had tried to climb the tree. 3 more were found between the tree and the tent, apparently trying to crawl back. These had minor injuries consistent with hypothermia and falls. The final 4 weren't discovered until May, buried beneath snow in a ravine. Their injuries were far more severe. 1 had a crushed skull. 2 had shattered ribs. 1 woman, Ludmila Dubanina, was missing her tongue and eyes. Yet there were no external wounds, no signs of struggle. The coroner declared that the internal injuries required a force comparable to a car crash. The Soviet investigation ended quickly and inconclusively. The final verdict: the hikers died due to a compelling natural force. Strange details were suppressed. Some clothing items were found to be radioactive. The bodies had odd orange coloring on their skin and white hair. The files were sealed until the 1990s. By then, the incident had spawned global interest and wild speculation avalanche. A leading theory suggests the group triggered a small avalanche, prompting them to flee in panic. But critics argue that the slope angle was too shallow, and the tent remained mostly upright. Military testing: some theorize the area was used for secret Soviet weapons tests. Explosions, parachute mines, or infrasound weapons could explain the trauma and panic. Yet, there's no definitive proof. Infrasound, a 2013 theory proposed by Donnie Icar, suggests wind patterns created infrasound, low-frequency noise that induces panic attacks. This could have caused the hikers to flee irrationally. Paranormal explanations: UFOs, Yetis, and interdimensional entities have all been proposed. Strange lights in the sky were reported around that time by nearby hikers, but these remain fringe ideas. Mansi tribespeople, initially suspected, the indigenous Mansi were later cleared. They considered the mountain sacred but had no motive or evidence against them. In 2019, Russian authorities reopened the case. In 2020, they concluded that an avalanche caused the panic. However, independent researchers and the public remain skeptical, pointing to inconsistencies in terrain, injuries, and behavior. The Dyatlov Pass incident has captivated the world for over 6 decades. Despite numerous investigations and books, no theory fully explains all the facts. Why did the hikers cut their tent from the inside and flee into the snow half-dressed? What caused the massive internal injuries without leaving external wounds? Why the radioactive traces? 9 lives were lost. 1 man survived only because fate made him turn back. To this day, the icy slope of Kholat Syakhl holds its secrets, and the world keeps asking, what really happened on that mountain?